Josh, if engineering were a high-powered weapon, you would be a confetti cannon loaded with extra glitter and 5 pounds of strawberry licorice.
Kaboom! Welcome to Engineer vs. Designer.
Podcast for designers,
engineers,
makers, bakers, and people with drool-worthy wood shops in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. I'm Adam.
And I'm Josh. This week, our very special guest is a guy with his own woodworking YouTube channel by the name of Frank Makes. Mr. Frank Howarth.
Speaking of all things woodsy and such, Josh, please blast the dusty, eye-watering particles of ignorance with the shop vac of knowledge. What have you got for us this week?
This episode of Engineer vs. Designer is brought to you by Autodesk Fusion 360. CAD in the cloud is real, and it's here, folks. Get a free 90-day trial today at fusion360.autodesk.com. And you know what? You'll find us on Twitter at EVD1. Head over there and retweet an episode or tell us what you think. You'll be entered into a drawing for a coveted Engineer vs. Designer t-shirt.
It is coveted. And by the way, we want to get in there. We're about to start this conversation with Mr. Howarth, and it is fantastic. I'm excited about it. Make sure you go check out his YouTube channel at Frank Makes or go to frankmakes.com because, man, this stuff is just mind-blowingly cool.
Phenomenal.
All right, let's do it.
Well, Frank, thank you so much for joining us today. We have, first of all, a deep, very thought-provoking question for you. If you could have a lifetime supply of gummy bears, you know, the good ones, not the ones that turn hard, as many as you want, but in order to eat them, you would have to only speak with lines from the movie Kindergarten Cop for the rest of your life. Would you do it?
See, I think that's the kind of thing where you'd be 20 minutes into it, and you'd realize it was a bad
I've made
decision.
a terrible mistake. Welcome, Frank. First things
I
first, you have one of the most kick-butt wood shops I've seen in a long time, and you've got videos of how you made them. It's just amazing. Do you have everything? Do you have every tool ever that anyone could ever want?
It looks like it. It definitely looks like it.
Yeah. No, there's still plenty of things to do.
Right.
Well, as much as we love your wood shop, we really don't know much about you besides the fact that you're really, really skilled at working with wood. Can you tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you came from, and how you got into woodworking?
Well, I was born in Honolulu.
Oh, really?
And
Nice.
that's where I grew up.
Adam's got family out there.
And my parents were sort of more the scientist types. My dad studied insects.
Huh.
So I didn't get a whole lot of design and making background from my family and my parents, but I found in high school I like to draw more than read. So,
Right. Oh yeah.
So I ended up going into architecture.
Oh, right.
Which once I did that, and once I was in school, it felt like that was the right thing for me.
Nice.
It seemed like it made sense.
And so how did you, I mean, now you're famous for documenting your process, sometimes in really extreme and excruciating ways, just mind-numbing to look at on YouTube. How did you get involved with photography, and what inspired you to start documenting your process like that?
I remember I got a camera when I was in high school and started learning about photography then, and got the basics of that down. It's pretty simple. It's just shutter speeds and f-stops,
Right.
Which then translates to digital stuff. Then I guess I've had a YouTube account for quite a while. I think I started it in 2006 or so. But I just really like the idea that you could share what you've done. Back then it was sort of this new thing. You couldn't publish stuff like that before. It had always been where you'd have to do something and then get out there and sell it to someone who would like it, and then from there it would get published or seen. Whereas Whereas now you can make something and just stick it out there, and if it's good, it sort of takes off and people see it. And
Now tell me this, I'm actually curious. Do you actually spend more time documenting your work than you do actually working? Because that's what it looks like, I have to admit.
I think it's probably almost even. I mean,
wow.
Yes, I spend a lot. But I really like doing the filmmaking part too.
Right.
So. The thing I really liked about photography and the way it used to be, and this will be a little bit hard to explain, but it's sort of, it was where you could take a picture and then you usually had to wait, weeks or months before you actually saw that image. And the filmmaking and the stop motion is still a little bit like that, where you can, where I can do something and kind of record it and then not see it for a while. And then when you see it after some time has passed, I see it in a different way.
There's kind of a discovery that happens.
Which is nice. It's nice to see it in a different way. And you sort of learn from yourself.
Looking at it through a different lens, as it were.
Yes.
So the first time I saw your time-lapse video of the lawn chair, I believe that's the most recent one you've put up, had awesome
sound effects.
By the way.
It's fantastic.
I mean, very good work on the sound as well. Blown away by the amount of patience it must have required to pull off. I mean, I forget how many shots were in that, but can you walk us through some of the most challenging
12,000 photos or something like that?
12,000 photos. Wow.
With something like that, you can break it up into all these little scenes, so it's 50 or 100 little projects just kind of strung together. That's where that idea of having where you do something and then you see it later really comes through, because you sort of move some pieces around slowly, taking photos between them, and then later you string it together and you see what that looks like. And that, for me, is really what makes it so fun, that you sort of have to do this mental thing of making these frames and not really knowing what it's going to look like.
Right. So it seems like that seems to be a common thread in our conversation so far. You really like the discovery process of kind of having something that you think you know what it's going to be, but then it's always fun to watch it come alive over the course of the process.
See, and I think that's where my science background from my parents kind of creeps in a little bit.
How's that?
It's like what I found in the design world, a lot of it is based so much on what someone just thinks something should be a certain way. So it should be that way because, so-and-so thinks so. So that's how the thing gets made. Whereas in science, you sort of look at something and it tells you something about itself, and then you make it based on, make something based on.
Oh, right.
And I think I like to work more that way.
Yeah.
That it's sort of tinkering and discovery.
I think in art, we sometimes call that, working in dialogue with your medium. You're working back and forth. Yeah. So on your blog, you recently posted a video with you and your son, Calvin. Lots of photos of Calvin. It's great. It's so fun to see that. You guys building a boat together. How important do you think it is that we teach tomorrow's generation kind of the importance of working with your hands physically in a shop, and how can we do that?
It's a funny kind of two-sided thing, because we've shifted in this country away from really making things. So at one level, you could sort of dismiss making things because you don't really need to. You can just kind of design stuff.
Right.
But then I think you find that having a background with your hands really helps when you're drawing through something. I think someone having that, at least some background, you don't have to work for 20 years in a wood shop to be able to do anything.
But Calvin really seems to enjoy it. Would you say that it's that's a valuable time that you guys spend together?
Oh yeah. I realized after the first day, looking back at what we did, that it wasn't really the time in the wood shop or making things or him using new tools. It was that we really bonded. He's going on 7, and it's like he's just getting to the point where I can see he's becoming his own person, and he's starting to separate from us as parents a little bit. And it was nice to kind of get back to spending time with him doing something.
Right.
That is great. That is great. You've seemingly mastered the art of making things with your hands, but I'm curious your thoughts on digital fabrication techniques, like laser cutting or 3D printing. First, have you ever 3D printed anything, or do you think this is just adding another layer of sort of abstraction that's not necessary? We still need to be getting back to the roots of making with our hands.
Yeah, no, I have done some of that, and I really want to make a CNC machine. A good friend of mine made one over the last year, and he's said that he'll help me put one together. So I definitely want to do that. Now, my last year in graduate school, they got a laser cutter, and I used it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote a Lisp routine where you could make a surface, then this Lisp routine would divide that surface into triangles and then lay those triangles down onto a flat plane, sort of rotating them around so they keep their same shape. Then from there you could laser cut that pattern and get all those triangles as physical things and then glue them back together again and then remake that surface that you'd made in the computer. One of the things I really want to explore more is the link between the digital modeled realm and then the real, the sort of real world and the dirt that you pick up between those two spaces.
Now, I'm actually curious, Frank. We haven't even mentioned this issue, and I'm surprised about it. I'm sure a lot of people wonder, do you have a day job? Like, what do you do? How do you fund this whole hobby of yours? Because it's pretty impressive.
Well, I worked in architecture for 15 years or so, and then over the last year, I took some time off, which was setting up the shop and then starting to do the YouTube stuff more, and really spending a lot of time doing the woodworking.
And does that stuff make any money for you?
A little bit, but it's not quite a living yet.
Right.
but it keeps growing, and I think it will be.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure you make a lot of things for people, chairs. You're selling those, your creations that you make and post online as well?
Yeah, I haven't. That seems like the obvious thing to do, but I haven't started doing that yet. That's always kind of been the plan.
Huh.
Now, the thing that really allows me to do this, and the person I really need to thank is my wife, who has a regular job.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we rode the housing market, somewhat well, and the kids were becoming school age, so it sort of became the perfect time to be a stay-at-home dad.
Oh, right.
So I'm sort of half stay-at-home dad, half woodworker, filmmaker.
Sounds like a good life.
Sounds like a great gig right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I put in the time working and, slowly, I fixed up, 2 houses and we sold those. And, so we're sort of in a good place to just do this. We're not, super well off or anything. It's just I've made this a focus. So it sort of happened.
I bet putting together that tool shop has been a dream for you. I'm wondering, what's your favorite tool in the entire shop? Do you have one?
I think the thing I use the most is the table saw.
Now, do you allow Calvin to use the table saw?
He did actually with the sled on it. So he was pushing the sled through the saw with a piece clamped to the sleds. So it was fairly safe with me standing right behind him.
Right. It's a good experience.
That's cool. So what's been your favorite project to date?
I think some of the ones where they were really stressful that I didn't know if it was going to work out.
Really? You like the stress?
And not so much the stress part, but the part at the end where it works out.
Right. Of course.
Now, I, like most red-blooded American males, I'm sure, have always dreamt of building a shop like the one that you've already actually built. So that's always a subject of envy as I watch your work. What kind of advice do you have for somebody that wants to set up their own shop? If you want if you want to A, get yourself set up to make things, and B, get your family involved. How do you get that process started, and do you have any things to watch out for as you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you start out with what you have. You start out, if you've got a garage and you've got some space, you just start really.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you have to find that you'd want to do it even, if you're not, making any money at it, or there's other things that your friends are doing, but you just really want to be with your tools making stuff. You can't force it.
Mm-hmm.
I would start with projects where you can finish them and you can get that feeling that you've made something, and you can kind of, step back and look at it and be really proud of it.
Oh, right. Give yourself some carrots along the way to kind of reach for. Yeah.
Right, exactly. If you start out making a huge bed frame or something, and you get kind of partway into it and you get tired of it, then.
And so let me ask that a different way then. What would you say was the most challenging part of putting together your shop?
Well, actually building it was all the permitting stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which
wow.
I didn't even get
think
into
about
in
that.
the video.
Right. With good reason, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, yeah. I could do a whole, documentary on that.
That might be kind of popular.
Yeah, sure it would.
Well, Frank, having you on the show today was even more fun than that time Adam got his shorts caught in the oscillating...
Spindle sander?
Spindle sander,
Yeah,
I think.
one.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Josh, I think I need to step up from measly toolbox I have in here and start putting together
I'm with you, buddy.
something a little more ambitious.
I'm with you. If you'd like to send Adam or myself a drill press or top grain leather apron to use in the wood shop, please address that to EVD Media.
If you'd like to send us your spare wood shavings, crooked nails, and or your favorite recommendation for a table saw, please address those to EVD as well. Let us know what you think, who you want to see on the show, and what your favorite kind of wood is at EngineerVsDesigner.com.
Mahogany.
Or on the EVD YouTube and or Vimeo channels. I'm kind of a big fan of rotting pine myself.
There you go. The smell. If you'd like to see us chasing our orbital sanders around the room, be sure to like us, +1 us, tweet us, or whatever else, as social media has been correlated with awkwardly chasing a power tool around the room.
Apparently, I guess it has. This show was edited by the masterful Simon Martin. If you love our taste in music and need some more tunes to propel you through the work week, be sure to check out SolidSmack Radio every Tuesday on SolidSmack.com.
We'll see you next week, and remember, without engineers, designers would stand staring at pictures of chairs instead of sitting in one.
And without designers, engineers would still be hammering nails with rocks and chewing on them.
Did you finally get your shorts out of that oscillating spindle sander? Did you ever?
Let's just say I'm not going to leave the house right now looking like this. It's a little indecent.
A production of EVD Media.